So welcome to my site, everybody. My name is Paul Smyers. I'm a real estate agent in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, and I specialize in rural property. And as my previous video I made, first in the series, about low-cost housing and how to get actually into having a home from homelessness. So I'll explore a fun idea. Go with me here and we'll explore it a little bit. And not everything will be applicable to every state and every location in the country, but here's some ideas that how it could go. First of all, you're going to need some land. If you want to have some land that you can just call your home, just like the old days, people found a little place that they could call their own, and in the old days they didn't have zoning and so on. They just said, well, this is mine, and keep out or whatever. So let's say you find a property that is in your budget, and let's say an acre or 2 acres. That's going to be quite a bit of land that you can have. If you just want to have a tent or something rustic, here's the way you can go. You go to an area in the country where the zoning is liberal already. It may be a recreational area. Like in Virginia, we have a lot of agricultural zoning, A open, and we have A1 and A2 and A5, A20. We have open land that has been used for recreation for generations and so on. Maybe nobody else wants it really for building a nice house. And if you don't mind getting that kind of a piece of land, and it has at least the zoning where you can say, I'm going to put my tent here, I'm going to camp here, everybody else camps here, this is forest land or whatever, and nobody's going to bother me, it's mine, and nobody's going to come and tell you to get away from there. So that's like you get a piece of property. Now, how much is that going to cost? Well, it varies a lot across the country. In Virginia, to get some wooded land, actually small parcels are in demand, and if it's got good road frontage and so on and been perked already, then it has more value. But you can find land that has a little bit less accessible. Maybe it got some road frontage, but if you have a strategy, one of your strategies could be, I'll just get some land. It doesn't even be perked. I don't even need to build a house there. I just want a place. So you get there and you put yourself down there and you own that land for a relatively small amount of money. And there are land dealers out there where you can pay a certain price and they pay over time, and it's possible to get 2 or 3 acres of land, but you got to check it out, make sure it has something suitable for you, because you don't want to be on a 45-degree slope. So you want something decent. But okay, you start for the piece of land, okay, and then you can put a tent there. Now, in many areas of Virginia, like I said, in other areas of the country where there's recreational land, it's long been a process. It's near state land or national forest, like Virginia has the Washington and the Jefferson National Forest, and then there's a lot of state land as well. So you can find a place that, let's say you're only like, you got 2 acres of wooded land and it's down this kind of side road, and maybe it's 10 miles from a place to eat or whatever, and your groceries, but nobody's going to bother you there, and you have the right zoning. You put yourself a tent there and you can just start living there. Now, that presents some issues when you get into the septic system, and if you don't really need a septic system and you're just living there in a tent, yeah, you can use the public bathroom at the gas station down the road or something. So there's ways of dealing with this. And when it comes to water, if you are near a stream, you can have a place in a wooded area. Maybe the stream doesn't actually run on your property, but maybe there's one nearby. It comes in, intersects a public road. You go down there and fill up your jug with water. So we're talking about going from homeless, real basic, to owning property a little bit more extensive. So let's say you have that for a while and you have a place, and if you own something, even if you improve it as a campsite, there are people who want to have a campsite that's already improved. They are going to a recreational area. I sold a couple of properties like that. It was just, they just wanted some recreational land. It was convenient, it was located well and available for a decent price, so they bought it. And then from then on, they got, like, one of them was 5 acres. One that was about 1 acre, but it was next to a cow field, and nobody was going to bother them there. And it's just a 1 mile away from a trout stream. And this one had a septic and well on it already because it was a mobile home at one time. And that's another example I'll get into as far as inexpensive housing. But if you really want to just go from, I don't want to be kicked off the streets, I don't mind living in a tent. I have known people who've done this, okay, and I was surprised at their endurance and how they managed to do that. But there are safer ways to do it by buying your own property, even if it's just a small piece of property. And there are times when you can get a farmer's lease as well. I don't know as much about that, but there are options where you can say, hey, this farmer owns like 100 acres and he doesn't need that half an acre. If I ask him nicely, maybe he'll let me put a campsite there just temporarily for a while. But if you buy a piece of property outright, let's say you can manage to get an acre for $10,000. And then you live there for a while, you build up a little place, you save up some money. Well, one day that property, if it's located right, and especially if you've improved it a little bit, maybe you got some trails in there, and maybe you made a little log cabin or something in there, then you can probably sell it for a significant profit, or at least you can use that as some kind of a bargaining chip when you will go and upgrade and maybe buy a bigger piece of land. So this is kind of a fantasy, you might say, about how to strategize from going from homeless to having some land. Now, there are people who are technically homeless and they have a little bit of cash or they have family or whatever, but through a process of working together, they can sometimes get a piece of land, like I said, and once they get established, then they can be kind of on their own. And if there's families involved, like I've known people who are family and who were homeless for a while, that they can help somebody transition with a low-cost alternative. You don't have to buy some fancy home. And we'll get into mobile homes in another example of a video. But one way is to find a mobile home that is on its own land. There are people who want to sell it for a bargain if you can afford it. And sometimes there's a nice piece of land with extras on it. And sometimes if you can't afford to buy it outright, maybe they'll even rent it to you because they want to go somewhere else and live somewhere else, but they might rent it to you for a while. Or maybe a rent to option. Don't ever ask somebody on Craigslist, hey, can I rent to buy? The answer is probably going to be no. But if you live there a while, you say, I want to buy it, and I'm paying you monthly payment. After a while, they can perhaps make a longer term deal, and then you can settle out of the mortgage. You can make a mortgage for 15 years, pay it off in 3, or you can get owner financing in some cases. But there's many ways to go from being homeless to having at least something, because I've seen people camping, you all have, on some city street, some park somewhere, and I think, well, if you're going to do that, if you have to do that, don't do it on a city street somewhere where the police are going to come. Go find a place where maybe you and your friends can buy 1 acre together and you all live there. 1 acre is 200 feet by 200 feet. So you can have at least 4 people with each a quarter acre and have plenty of room. So I know it's a little silly sometimes to think about homelessness this way, but I'm in the real estate business partly for the reason of helping people find a home that they want and encouraging a low stress, low cost type of lifestyle in the rural area. So thanks again for listening. Hope you like and share. I appreciate it very much. Thanks.